An independent inquiry has found that British soldiers beat an Iraqi man to death while he was in custody. The inquiry has found that Baha Mousa and 9 other Iraqis were arrested and assaulted in Basra in 2003.
The inquiry chairman, Sir William Gage, found Mr Mousa died with 93 separate injuries. The head of the army says the incident casts a dark shadow over the service's reputation.
What happened to Baha Mousa and his fellow detainees in 2003 was, in the words of the inquiry, grave and shameful. The Army has apologised unreservedly to Baha Mousa's family and to the surviving victims of this shocking episode. And I would like to take this opportunity to repeat that apology today, in particular to Colonel Mousa, Baha Mousa's father, and to his family.
For more, Europe correspondent Emma Alberici joins us now from London. Emma, good morning. So what was the inquiry charged with looking at?
Well, it wanted to get to the bottom of exactly what happened after these 10 men were detained by British forces in Iraq, in Basra, the southern city, during, it has to be said, the height of the war in September 2003. So they wanted to know, despite the fact, curiously, that there had already been a court-martial back in 2006, 2007, obviously there'd been an outcry after that because only one man had been convicted of anything after that, and that was only a conviction for inhumane treatment. He'd been cleared of the much graver charge of manslaughter. And so of today, of the 14 men who are named, of all of those who are named in the report in an extremely, to quote the report, shameful manner, there's now going to be a lot of questions about that court-martial that cleared them all and only convicted one of inhumane treatment. He was out of jail within a year.
The 1st Battalion Queen's Lancashire Regiment is the regiment under question, and it was seen that, from what I understand, what I've briefly read this morning, Emma, those men in custody for, I think, only 36 hours, and yet this death resulted because you were using banned interrogation techniques and didn't even seem to know about the ban.
Well, exactly. These banned interrogation techniques had been banned specifically in the UK in 1972, and indeed they contravene every international law with regards to interrogation procedures around the world. Now, these procedures, it's got to be said, are incredibly vile. These were what were called stress positions. So if you can imagine it, these men were sitting, when you stand with your back against the wall and you're forced to squat and sit against the wall almost, but with nothing supporting your backside. They were forced into that position for up to 36 hours, and also at the same time being shouted at and abused, having profanities yelled at them. And in fact, the leading culprit, it has to be said, a lieutenant by the name of Donald Payne, he was named in the report as having been a violent bully. He engaged in what the inquiry found was some fun, as he found it, by somehow conducting a choir of the groans of these men by prodding them at certain times. This was despicable in anyone's language.
So what did the inquiry find when it comes to command, to those who are supposed to be in charge of these people and the leadership that they did or did not exhibit?
Well, the man responsible for this report was scathing about the people in charge, that they turned a blind eye, that they should have, if they didn't know, they certainly should have known what was happening in the building. It wasn't a large building, this makeshift prison in Iraq that had been set up by the British forces, and so the people in charge certainly should have known. In fact, he is quoted in the report as saying that specifically the man in charge of that battalion has a lot to answer for, that his actions in allowing this kind of treatment to go on, not only if he was there or if he knew about it, but the fact that he allowed this culture to develop within his battalion where, in the words of the report, this sort of behaviour became systemic. And it was a demonstration that there was a lack of discipline and a lack, in the words of the report, of moral courage.
Emma Alberici, really good to talk to you. Thanks so much.